Okay, guys, welcome everyone to the second CSGO meetup organized by Reveris. We're here today with our guest Maylin,
Hi.
who is a CSGO player, commentator, streamer, and much more. We're here to discuss how to boost CSGO in Slovenia. And we're gonna kick off, I guess. Like we have a couple of people joining in. So I hope we'll have fun discussions. We invite cameras on, and we invite you all to join the discussions. Feel free to ask questions, chime in, or contribute in any other way. And yeah, let's get going. So Reveris, as you know, right, is a community building organization, and it's a esports accelerator that is promoting esports and helping teams develop products and help esports community all together. So yeah, today we have Maylin. We're gonna talk about CS:GO and how to boost it in Slovenia. So in the first meetup, we kind of like figured out that we have potential. We have room to improve, of course, but maybe I don't know. Initial thoughts from you, maybe. What do you think about this? The current status quo of the Slovenian CS:GO, and let's take it from there.
Currently, I think there's a lot of potential in the scene, like a lot of potential, but it's really down to the individuals and their motivation to get better at the game, not only as in individual skill, but in team skill, as in a team organization, team practice, anything. I think there's a lot of potential, and I think that we just need to motivate the players to do it better.
All right. Do you think we have the mentality and persistence to grow something bigger? Like, do we can we find 5 guys or maybe 10 guys or 15 guys? I don't know. Let's build 3, 4 teams.
Uh, in the mentality department, I have one team in mind that actually I think is a good candidate for whatever they're doing. I think it's working, and that honestly is Dragons Esports. That's a Slovenian team run by a Slovenian organization, has Slovenian players. And what I think is actually working for them is that they're trying to improve, but I think that Domen, I saw he joined the chat. He was a player for them. I think he knows the mentality behind that team as strict as trying to improve at every single aspect that they want. Uh, and I think they think that they want to reach their skill ceiling by really any means necessary, by practicing every single day as a team or even individually. They are very talented. And I think they're very good, pretty much a bunch of young guys that I think, if not right now, if they're not the best in Slovenia right now, just by playing with each other, by teaching each other different skills, individual skills, I think that a group like that is going to reach the best individually skilled players in Slovenia. Will that lead to them being a high tier team, like at least I see them if they go by the way they're going. I definitely see them in the tier three department, maybe even tier two if they go by how they're going, just by either trading players, uh, making a completely different team, or by just doing what they do, and that is practicing every single night at least. I don't see them doing anything by day, but you know, practicing every single night just to be better at this game.
Yeah. Do you think they have some competition in Slovenia already? Like who which are the teams that can maybe compete with them or they're
Uh, in Slovenia, I think really a good competition for an organized team like this is any sort of mix of really good individually skilled players. Just because if you have, let's say, five really good individually skilled players who are really puggy in their type of play. How they just like, rush short, rush banana, rush long, whatever, uh, throw random executes whenever they want without any sort of organization. I think that that would really put like a team that's really well organized, but still sort of a little bit puggy, like Dragons Esports, off their game just because they are used to playing teams. They're used to playing someone who screams constantly, who's organized, who knows what they're doing, who follows protocol, just doesn't do random stuff at any given moment. And at that time, like any sort of mix, like let's say Jixi or Nay, Rock, anybody who's like a top tier Slovenian player when it comes to individual skill, I think that they could on a any given day, really, they could defeat Dragons Esports.
All right, but if I understand you correctly, right, the appropriate next steps would be for Dragons to kind of like go back to that game, analyze what went wrong, and they could beat that same mix the next time. Or is it?
Exactly, but here comes the problem. It's not always going to be the same mix.
Yeah,
It's always going to be a rotation of really good players, and
yeah.
that's what you really kind of need to defeat in this scene. Is that you really can't expect what the next mix is going to be, because there's okay, some like you if you remember Ani.si, Ani Picasso, whatever you want to call them, they were really good players on Epicenter. They won one, well, the mix of Ani.si, like the players, they won two, and that's pretty good achievement, honestly.
Mm.
But they made slight changes every single time. And how do you combat it with slight change? You make your own slight change so they're not used to how you play, not used to how you play any site, at least, or like
Yeah. But what would I don't know? I'm just thinking out loud. But then this mix, right? They beat the, let's say, top team in Slovenia. They wouldn't want to commit to something bigger, or how do you see it?
no. I don't think mixes that don't want to commit anything like into improving as a team, really, or as how they play together, is a good thing for the scene. You need teams, organized teams. Like one of those is iSucks, who has their microphone on. Anyway, an organized team like iSucks, I think, is really good when it comes to their team or team like play, as in their positioning and their way of playing the game together, but they're still sort of a little bit puggy in their way. And I think that a puggy team is always going to win in this scene just because you can't practice against a organized team here. And that's, I think, is the issue. And there's always going to be a mix of teams, that a mix of players that is going to get up on top. Why? Just because they can not really outplay them, but kind of play against their expectations of how a team is supposed to be playing. And that's really my thought on why we need more teams, like organized teams, not mixes anymore.
Yeah,
We're done with this. We need like a dedicated player. We need smart people. We need IGLs that people follow.
that is where I was going because I remember I don't know still talking back in my days I don't know if we created a mix and we actually beat a good team. You know, kind of started thinking in the back of our head, what if we practice 2 to 3 hours per day, right? What could we do? So I'm wondering if that is a possibility here in Slovenia, or is this just not the culture, not the way these mixes want to go about?
Um, I mean, it's not really the problem of the general culture, but I think it's a problem of how players are approaching the scene. If you like, if we recall, I'm an admin of the Slovenian Hub, and the Slovenian Hub is really a place where random people can play at random times against random other people. That's it. Those are just mixes. And what happens in the Slovenia Hub, people don't take the game really seriously. They don't want to improve. They just want to play for fun. Yeah, okay, I got nothing against people playing for fun, definitely. But what we do need is people having the motivation to develop their play style, to develop what they want to be, either an IGL or a really good like support player, whatever, and basically just make a place where talent can be developed in the hub. And that's what kind of me and the owner of the Slovenian hub, we were kind of thought experimenting last night really on how we can improve the development of players in the hub just by motivating them, making them play better. Not well, not making them play better, but you get what I mean. Just giving them a place to shine.
Yeah,
Really, that's it. Instead of just playing with random, mm, I'm gonna call it as it is, trolls.
yeah. I
Sometimes,
mean, my thinking was right because we would want to probably attract young talents and like have them get serious about it. And like I think this in these days it's much. I would assume it's much easier than it was back in the days because like everything is evolved. Like you have social media, esports is a really big industry. And like I don't know if like I can only imagine like I don't know 9, 10, 12 year old boys or girls, right, looking at some pro matches and say, "Fuck, if these guys are doing this for a living, this is something that I would want to do." Right? I think this is how it all started. It's the same in other sports, right? If people see Messi and they want to
mm,
become one, right?
yeah, they want to become
Don't
him.
Doncic, they say, all right, let me shoot the basketball and let me try to be that guy, right?
Yeah, I think that obviously a lot of Slovenian players look up to the tier one teams and players and everything, and like the players they see in streams on Twitch or whatever, and they kind of idolize them. But sad thing is they don't put the same amount of work into the game that those players did or even do these days, and that's I think that's definitely down to the individuals, but we haven't seen that kind of individual come up in Slovenia. I think just because of the law of large numbers, really, because well, you have so many, such a huge population in different countries, like let's say Russia, where a lot of tier two teams at least come from, and tier one just comes from like Scandinavia, Western Europe, whatever, and Brazil sometimes. But I think that's just because of the huge population. Here we like the next big player might be already playing in slow hub. You just never know when there's going to be a player that's just going to show up, do the work, and get to the top.
Yeah, but again, like he would need a team, right? He would need five other guys.
Definitely. Well, there's always the guys that just get really good and then
They prove
individually and
yeah,
then show up in like a team. Like you remember Stewie 2K, for example.
yeah.
Yeah, he was just a pugger, played ESEA till he got into rank S, and that's it. Then
Mhm.
he became like pretty much the biggest star in North America by this point.
Yeah. So what let's move to the next point or so to say. So what do you think are the best next steps to boost Slovenian Counter-Strike? Like
Yeah.
is more competition? Are these offline, online competitions? Do we need more teams, public training sessions? I don't know, maybe even cyber cafes back. Or what are
Okay.
your
Um, in the competition department, we have really good quality tournaments in this country, run by people who know what they're doing, but we just don't have enough of them. Why? Because well, sadly, the funding is not there. We don't really have the funding to make a prize pool for every tournament. A free tournament, yeah, people are just gonna show up and play whatever just because it's free. And not really be motivated to, win the actual thing, because they're going to troll all the time and say, whatever, it was free anyway, we're just going to continue on with our day.
Mm.
um, the quality of actual tournaments is really good, just because of the organizers in Slovenia trying to step up their game every single time. Also, the argument online offline. I am I have always been a big advocate for offline CS, because I think that's the purest form of CS, and that's how you can like interact with your team the best. But I think online CS is has been, at least for the past year, pretty much, really really good, kind of like a catalyst for making the best Counter Strike we have ever seen. Like, okay, maybe not like spectacle wise. Like, you're always gonna love seeing like the old Fnatic versus the old NIP, but the quality and just sheer skill of the players right now and teams, I think, has reached a maximum, just because of the time not spent traveling or doing whatever else, just
Yeah,
because they're stuck in front of their PCs and playing the game pretty much all the time.
that that I completely agree. Like also one big point here, right? Like it's also totally different CS online and offline, right? Like as long as
Definitely.
you're a team and you just play online, you play tournaments and all that, it's all fine and well. Like you're all on TeamSpeak, you all have good, you're
Yeah.
all in your comfort zone, right? In your own setup, and then like if you want to become real, you have to go to lands, right? In a normal time, not in 2020, early
Yeah.
2021 because of COVID, right? But you wanna participate in land tournaments, and land tournaments are completely different beast, right? There you have smaller space. Your table is not your height. Your chair
Yeah.
is different. You have to adjust to the settings, the noise in the background, and all of that stuff. And like even back in the days, and I know this is happening even today, like when actually good teams then come to some good tournaments, they choke for the first few couple of times, and they need that experience in order to get to move to the next tier and go the next step, because the land tournaments are just that different. It's the pressure, it's the noise, it's different environment, and things just usually don't work that well. Even maybe sometimes, like you said, maybe mixed teams would even perform better in land tournaments that are organized teams, right? Just because of that factor, because like organized team prepped everything and they're comfortable in doing their own things, but land is different, while mixes are just like buggy and just
Yeah, they just don't care about their
yeah,
practice
just
because they never put it in the first place.
run and gun, right?
Yeah, run and gun. You don't care what you are gonna do, and you don't care what you did. You came up here to this spot as a puck team, and I think that's a big issue with at least Slovenian CS, is that definitely a lot of teams are puck teams, but they just show up to big events. Like, for me, the biggest event of any Slovenian tournament is definitely Epicenter, just because players. It's a huge tournament. It's always promoted so well, and players enjoy playing on it just because it's so well organized, and because they can expect the best of the Slovenian scene on that tournament. Sometimes you don't see Jixi and Yane, like the top two Slovenian players, according to Elo on Face It, playing on like random tournaments. If it's not for money, if it's not for good money, at least.
Hmm.
And that's where the other part comes in, money. And it kind of ties into the last few questions that I saw were posted in chat. How do you try and motivate players? Money. That's a good factor. They're like a couple. I think it was May or something, or April, in the Slovenian hub, that at the time the admin was Ogris, and he kind of pumped out a lot of skins into the hub prize pool for every single month. At what point does that become like a kind of a bad return on investment? And that's when you get like a few players in the Slovenia hub just dominating the scene. Uni, I don't know if you know the guy, but he's a kid that has gone to play for many teams. He's the guy that won Epicenter in Anidal. But in the end, I think he's just in it for playing it for the money,
Yeah.
which is sad because he just played for his skins. He like there was a Christmas event in the end, and he didn't want to play. Sorry to call out Uni like this, but people in his skill level just don't want to play if there's not a good motivation to play, and money is a big motivation for it. But I think that something else can be a motivation. That's exposure, and that's a way that you can expose a player to a wider audience. Like if they have a live stream going up, put that live stream on your like really popular Facebook page or something, and that can be like a big factor for giving players something that they didn't know they wanted, and that's the big
I would I
shout outs. Yeah,
partially agree here, but like I think that everyone starts playing esports or CS:GO because it's fun, right? And then this fun
definitely.
leads to, if you really love the game, then you're gonna play it and you're gonna become better. So I don't believe it's everything in the money. Maybe I don't know.
Definitely. No, I agree with you. I'm just talking about like
I
kind
would
of like the
invite
bad
here.
side.
I would invite here our guest, the Vu Cloud, who is. I'll just quickly introduce him. He's my colleague at work, and he's also like he comes from Belgrade, and he has like an own statue. So to say, he has owned this cyber cafe in Belgrade, and that cyber cafe is still standing. And there was also a movie was shot there with what was his name? Who help me?
Is Brosnan. That's irrelevant.
Like the cyber cafe was huge. It's nothing like we had in Slovenia. Like system was like a water of drop of water in the ocean to what this cyber cafe was. So I'll let him have a few words.
Yeah, hi everyone. Like my name is Vuk, and like as Gregor said, we are like co-workers together with Tom and a couple of other guys. But yeah, I moved to Ljubljana from Belgrade. And first disclaimer, I'm like after I moved to Slovenia, I was completely lost the touch with gaming scene. But before that, I owned 3 cyber cafes in Belgrade. At one point, we maxed with like 450 computers. Also, my company owned licenses for CPL, ESWC. We organized even like we took a couple of Slovenian players because we had a license for the whole XU region to like ESWC finals in Paris. But that was like from 2001 to 2010. Around 2010, I slowly like retreated from like the esport because back then like the huge economic crisis hit, especially US, and like the budgets plummeted across not just in Europe but like also quite a lot of big teams got their esports budget like destroyed completely. So I think I have like plenty of experiences, and like I organize like literally hundreds of Counter-Strike tournaments. So just a couple of things. My thoughts. So first, like if you want a strong gaming scene, you need numbers. Like that's number 1, 2, and 3. And for numbers, the money is not important, because like money is important only for like top 2 teams, because usually in smaller countries there is a huge gap between top 1 or top 2 or top 3 teams and everyone else, the rest of community. So you can't motivate numbers with money. Also, when it comes to tournaments, and I had a lot of debates from like back then. One of the partners, you probably know the guy, one of the guys who worked in Slovenia and who helped us with some some logistic was Sebastian Barbo. I don't know if you know the guy. Probably you heard about him. But like he in all other countries, like including Macedonia, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, for all these tournaments, and like back then they're mostly like LAN tournaments, but like they're also like starts of online tournaments. You would pay to enter the tournament. It wouldn't be much. It would be maybe, I don't know, depending on the country, from 2 to 5 euros per person. But that will eliminate all the trolls, as young people now call them. So and again, like with even with 16 teams or like with 8 teams, that would be at least some prize money for the top three teams. And with time, now the problem for Counter-Strike nowadays, like back then it was easy because like you had 3 games. You had StarCraft, Warcraft, and Counter-Strike. Now you have to compete with literally hundreds of different games, and especially nowadays, younger people are playing on mobile phones and tablets, and not on PC. So that's a huge challenge. And I personally, like I don't have any good advice on that. And like besides, like a lot of hard work needs to be put, including. And again, like I'm totally clueless what the Counter-Strike or gaming scene nowadays in Slovenia is, or like even in Europe. But like you need to recruit like loads, like literally hordes of people, even in elementary school, and then to hope that like in a year or two you'll have like a base of, I don't know, let's call it 16 or like dozen or a bit more of, I wouldn't even call them teams, but a group of friends playing Counter-Strike together. And then out of those numbers, then like people would start training and start competing, and even like in the same school. So like if they're like big, larger like high schools, like with electrotechnicians or like similar groups where like the where majority of students are boys, then you can also get some sort of competition within just like that one school. And we saw a lot of success back then with that. But I say, like, it was totally different environment. It was mostly LAN tournaments. Now with like everything being online, the good thing is like that you are not limited to any like location, but a bad thing is that like you miss those connections, and it's quite harder to build communities online when it comes to connections and everything else compared to in person. Yeah, so those are my 2 cents. If you guys have like any questions, or you would like to hear from back then, like we welcomed in Belgrade some teams like Virtus Pro, like Adrenaline, and a lot of other teams. And as I said, like we took like even Slovenian players to like world championships back then. Unfortunately, like Counter-Strike scene was like really, at least that was information coming to us. So from Slovenia, we're only taking, if I remember correctly, Warcraft and FIFA or PES players, but not Counter-Strike teams.
I think the biggest esport right now in Slovenia, just because of the top performing players, is definitely League of Legends, which I think it just boosted the player count just because of that. Also because it's a free game. But hey, Counter-Strike is now a free game, and you don't see as many people playing it. But I also Fortnite. But I think that, yeah, definitely boosting the player count is a big factor of any big scene. I mean, if there's not people playing it, why would there be people playing it? That's pretty much like the reverse effect of any game is making. But then you, at least as an organizer of like events or communities, you kind of have to think, am I doing something wrong? Am I the kind of guy that's demotivating these players instead of motivating them to play Counter-Strike professionally, at least, or to even play at all? And that's when you kind of think about what should you do to get more players into this game. Is it, host more tournaments, big up more prize money, so new players can feel like, ooh, shiny prize pool. Let's go win it. And it's like, in the end, yeah, you made a definitely really good point with the prize money thing. It just doesn't make sense when it comes to a pure player base. Yeah.
Yeah, and just another thing, actually two things. Like first, like there's a huge misconception that like I saw a lot of people in and during that time, and that like I said, like my involvement with esports was like almost 10, like throughout from 2000, yeah, for almost 10 years, and a lot of people entered esports with the idea that they will make money. There's like in this region there's no money in sports. You can you can travel a bit. You can get some like sponsorship, for example. You can get like gear for free or things like that. But if you're doing it for money, like you'll be disappointed. So that's one thing. We were like the only reason we were able to like we had tournaments like with 20K prize pool, but the only why we were able to do that is because it was our investment into like we called it free publicity. And then when it comes to free publicity, there's a really good like playbook how to make these events, how to get like good reach with these for these events with with not too much effort and almost zero money. So first, currently there is a big lack of quality quality news in total, like everything, like, and it's the same, like now it's COVID, but even before, like all these like media agencies, they have problem of getting the quality news. So if you prepare a nice press material for them with photos, with videos, basically you do everything for them, pretty much like every media outlet will publish it. And that's like I can guarantee that. Like we saw that, like, and even nowadays after that, like I continued with one humanitarian action, and like getting a media space is easier than ever. So that's one thing. And second thing is, like, when doing the tournaments and when chasing for sponsors, a lot of mistake, like one of the basic mistake a lot of our competitors and like other people who are like doing similar things, they were going to government institutions for money, because like usually that everyone's seen that, like that's an easy way. But actually, like, you should go to, for example, to mall, but you don't ask money, you just ask a letter of approval or letter of sponsorship. And if you have a good story, like, and it's not that hard to do it for esports, especially nowadays. Maybe 20 years ago, it was still perceived as like evil gaming, and like gaming was perceived that, I don't know, people playing 24/7 in some basements. But now there is like quite a strong like esports movement across the world, so you can just on like it's popular, simple as that. So you like even like getting, or maybe from like Ministry of Sport or like Ministry of whatever, like you just go and ask for like letter of sponsorship or something like that, but no money, just for they're like supporters. And in most cases, like you will find one government organization or like even multiple who will do that. And then with that, you go to media, create the hype, and then hype, and then you go to sponsors. And that's how we for years, that was our recipe for getting funds and getting sponsorships. Also, it's way easier for sponsors to give gear or products than money, for multiple reasons. Like, even if like we would get, like, for example, we would get money from AMD, but then we will have to wait for like a year to actually get the funds. Again, for us, like, it was not a problem because like we were running successful business. But like if you're just organizing tournament, you can't wait for 1 year to get the funds. Yeah. But the gear you can get instantly, and for a lot of these kids, like getting like 100 euro mouse is like more than a huge motivation to try to do something. So like my advice would be like baby steps, because like from what I understand, like you need to build like something almost from zero. But it's not impossible, and it's not that hard. It's just like you need to have people who want to invest their time into this, and for them, they need to know that they will not get financial satisfaction in return. But everything else, yeah.
Cool, thanks. Maybe we can drop the first poll for today. Živa, if you can go ahead and run it, just so we have a bit more interactivity. And it says, how much time do you usually spend playing CS per week? If you're playing CS, if not, feel free to.
Or Valorant. Valorant is also an alternative.
um, but yeah, like some nice discussions here. So yeah, we need a community. We need more teams. We need to attract young people. And
Yeah.
maybe next question for you, maybe how do we inspire like new young talents to play the game, play it a bit more seriously than just for fun, and then like when they lose two matches, they kind of rage quit and say, "Oh, let me try something else." Because this is what eventually happens with any game, right? You quickly get to one tier, to one level of skill, and then once you need to take the next step, it kind of like you run into bump in the road, right? You
Yeah,
need
like
to come
for
up with
for a lot of players that I know, once they get to a specific level, they feel like they've beaten the game in some way, and just it doesn't work like that. Counter Strike can be beaten like a single player game. You, if you want, definitely you can play to get better, get be like the best in the country, or like an entire region, or like Europe if you want. But in the end, they just quit out of nowhere. That's where I think is the most mind-boggling thing when it comes to the scene, is that players don't stick around long enough. It's just a hard way to kind of stick by the scene if you just play random games, play Face It for elo, for just oh, number go up, that means I'm good at this game, right? And it's just like, yeah, but like, are you really improving, or are you just playing because you're playing? You feel like you're doing something. No, in the end, you want to become a better player if you are actually passionate about this game. And
mm,
that's what I think is, definitely needed more in the scene. You need more individually motivated players to make good teams. We are talking about a way to motivate players, like make them play more seriously, especially in the Slovenia hub. We are trying to make less of a toxic environment. Like, I don't know if you know this, but the Slovenia hub has been known for toxic players in the past. These days, I think it's the best that it's ever been, just because rules have been enforced. Players that don't follow those rules have been kicked out or permabanned, whatever. But in a way, I think that, just making a good environment to play is not a really is not the best option. The best option is to give these players, a place to shine, a place to develop as a player by themselves, and not just playing against random people, as I said before, like mixes playing in pugs and the Slovenian hub. No, you need more players to have the actual motivation. How are you going to do that in such a small scene? Sadly, I don't think that the Slovenian seed by itself is a good motivation.
yeah, but
There's just not enough players.
that was my next question, basically like a follow up question, because maybe you're more into the scene than I am.
Hmm.
I was wondering like why like the Dragons esports team, do they play some regional tournaments, or like because I know like we said before, like it's a numbers game, right? And Slovenia is a bit small, so do we compete in Balkans, right? We could compete with Croatia, Belgrade, Bosnia, not Belgrade, Serbia.
Um,
Do we do that, and why not? If not,
uh, I'm gonna say, like I see it, every single Slovenian team that has taken itself at least a little bit seriously, even mixes, have played multi-regional tournaments, interregional, whatever you want to call it, Balkans, just whatever European tournament. They
Is
have
that
tried qualifications and stuff.
is that not motivating enough? Or like, because you said like people like players quit because like they don't get a challenge or they stop or they don't. There's no
Uh, I don't
quality.
think the I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I don't think the problem is the challenge to get to a place. I think the problem is the challenge of getting yourself back up, because people go into like I remember a couple teams actually signed up for the Rio major qualifiers in Slovenia. They are like some of the best players in Slovenia at least, and they made some really decent teams at the end. They all lost in like, I don't know, fourth round or something like that. Still not terrible results, but
Mm.
if you kind of disappoint yourself in some way, and how do you get back up from that? You can't really. It's just a slight pain. It's like, I should have played with a different team. We should have made it like this. Maybe we could have gotten somewhere higher. But then they just quit.
Mm. I
I
mean,
think the biggest issue in Slovenia is people quitting when they're supposed to be, you know, fighting every single last bit.
grinding
You're
it a
saying?
bit more. And yeah, that's something that a bit like frustrates me as a bit as well because I also had a couple of friends that were really good at CS, and even though I kind of quit the game back in the day, right? Then I thought, look, guys, you got really good potential. If you put in the work, you could do something, right? And
Yeah.
they didn't, and I think like what kind of bothers me a bit is like because we're looking back on my experience, right? Back in the days, we didn't have that much possibilities to train. If I look like if I look from this from this perspective, if I was now I don't know 13-year-old boy wanted to become a CS professional, right? You could do like a tiny research on what you need to do, and you have so much resources. You have so much actually like practices, training stuff that you can do, right? Back in the days, we didn't have aimbots map, we didn't have surf maps, we didn't have YouTubes, how to throw grenades, how to move, how to watch. You have streams every day of top tier matches where you could watch tactics and all that. We didn't have that, right? You had the CPL tournament twice a year. If you were try harder, then you were downloading the demos and looking at the strats, right? But these days you could just turn on Twitch, you could watch the stream, you could do your notes, you could. There are possibilities, right? I'm just not sure if people are actually doing this, right? Because I remember I read an interview with like I don't know, I think Guardian or Scream like back in I don't know 3, 4, 5 years ago. They said they wake up in the morning 8 a.m. and they shoot bots for 2 hours. Just same skills, like just tech technical, not technical, like the mechanical skills. That's all they do. And I'm not sure if people in Slovenia are aware of that and if they're doing it. I know if I was starting to play CS from the scratch, I would do this.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
I'm serious about it, right?
then there comes the factor of when does real life overwrite your time playing the game, training, whatever. That's definitely a factor that has to be counted for each individual. And me, as I know a lot of players in the Slovenian scene, but there's a lot of them who actually practice every single day, playing aimbots, playing deathmatch, playing whatever, just to become better. Some just kind of even surf to some players or bunny hop or whatever is just what it just gives them more motivation to become better, to like when you beat a surf map with a better time than you did last time, you're going to be motivated to play it again. And while you're there, why not play a round of CS? It's pretty much like a an effect that keeps players around when they're not even aware of it, I think. And I think in the end, players should be spending. Like if you are a new talent, a kid, you have like the insane motivation to go forward, to okay, I want to be the guy at the major at whatever cost it takes. You're going to be practicing 24/7 pretty much, at least 7 days a week, just to become mechanically skilled enough. Then comes the actual brain part of the game where we actually have to, be good at strats, know the smokes and flashes or whatever, and read your teammates, enemies well, whatever. But that takes experience. So, in the end, I think that in Slovenia we have a lot of experienced players who are really smart at the game, know what they're doing, and then we have a lot of really good mechanical players who have no idea what they're doing. They're just clicking heads. That's it. I think both of them are really good parts. But when you get the perfect combination, that's when you get the best player possible for that scene, at least. How does he get beyond that scene? He plays against players from on like random matchmaking, like Face It or whatever, from across the entire region at least. So in the end, I think that definitely okay, you need to motivate the player, but also the player needs to motivate himself. It's more of an individual kind of thing that than
but
an
it's
outside force making you play better. Yeah.
but it's still it becomes a numbers game, right? As well, because like
Yeah.
we'll only have like one Dragic per lifetime, right? And he was like he wanted to get better and he shoot the ball
Yeah.
24/7, right? It's the same thing. So yeah.
We have definitely a lot of good players in a lot of sports, or even esports, League of Legends, for example, or even Fortnite. There was a guy I don't remember what his name is, but in general, you need numbers.
Yeah.
Why is basketball, football, whatever kind of sport very? Why do we have a lot of good players there? Well, because everybody plays basketball, everybody plays football, everybody is just there's a huge amount of people doing it. And if I remember correctly, in the Slovenian hub, there is about 2,000 players, and daily, I think are active 20, maybe 30. That's not enough to grow a scene just out of a small pool. You need more players that take the game at least more seriously than they actually do.
Do you think like if we like that we would boost the scene or like motivate young people if we had any like other like side professions, so to say? I'm not sure how to call them, like streamers, casters. Like if we had more, like if we would have, I don't know, a really popular streamer that I don't know has, I don't know how no
Yeah.
what
Um,
benchmark for the number of viewers that it's really a top tier streamer, right? But do you think if we had that, that would boost the scene as well, or like how to go about that as well?
um, First of all, I'd like to thank Vuk for being with us. He has been a great source of information. And look, I don't know if you know the guy who goes by the name Matafe, by the username Matafe.
I heard
He
of
used to be a CS player in the Slovenian scene, a really talented one at that. He went on to Fnatic Academy in Counter-Strike, but he at the end he didn't like it, like how he played there, and then they benched him, I think it was, and then he pretty much quit. Now he is arguably one of the at least top 10 players in Apex Legends. How did he get there? Where was that motivation to play CS? And I think that's more of a thing as, first of all, he became the most popular Slovenian streamer. He doesn't speak Slovenian on stream, he speaks English, but he is the most popular Slovenian streamer. And I think that's where the motivation comes from. Where you're a streamer, where you have possibly thousands people looking at you, You want to perform at your best, and that's it. Like there has been like a surge of new talent. Like, I don't know if you don't know the new guy on the block. He's been around for a couple of years, but he's still like a kid. His name is Doc. He's a Dutch Counter-Strike player, and he has proven himself as a really talented guy. He's really good at the game. His aim is pretty much on point to whatever you want. He has made himself popular by his stream, and now he's continuing that. Not playing FPL on Face It, if you know what that is, but like there's definitely an outside profession that helps somebody get better at the game. And that's definitely streaming. Like any other professions that help to boost the scene, organizers in Slovenia, we have enough of them. Honestly, for the entire scene, we have like what, 3 organizers, and there's not enough players really to go around. Like, okay, the good thing is that these organizers host their events pretty much interchangeably. Like, there's no 2 events at the same time, which I think is really good for a scene. Otherwise, it splits it up. That's the big issue that I really hope that doesn't come. But I think that these guys, Speed C, P-Byte, Stage 1, most whatever they want to be called these days, they host good events. People want to play them, but they might need the workforce. They, as organizers, they need the workforce to get the marketing out, to make a more solid, more like the integrity of some events has been damaged just because sometimes it happens that the internet goes out, the electricity goes out, but you just sort of can't control that. Except if you have like a bajillion people in your workforce. That just doesn't happen these days.
Yeah. I would go with the second poll in this stage, and then we move on to the last topic, or wanted to hear your thoughts on, and then we can kindly shortly wrap up on, or leave it for the QA. So Živa, if you can run it, it's how to check. The poll is going to be, how much time would you be willing to invest to play CS professionally per week? So what do you think is the number? What would you be willing to invest if you were to become the next Nico or someone like that?
The Nico of the Slovenian scene. Yeah, Jiva pointed out a really good topic. I find it hard, serious people. It's hard to find serious people because people expect a paycheck, and most of these organizations are non-profit. Yeah, some people just don't recognize that, and they need to get like the prize pool from somewhere, and that's either we mentioned sponsors earlier, or any sort of investors, or just self-funding, and that's hard to do. Really, really hard. You either need somebody who has a whole lot of money by themselves just to pump it into a single project, and a single passion project, I like to call these things, just to get like a good response out of the people, just to get like, ooh, this tournament, these guys, they must be pretty legit. They have a tournament for like 10,000 prize pool or something like that, or like a whole lot of skins as their prize pool. And then we come back to the argument of money.
Yeah,
When
but
does
that's
that become a big factor?
There's also another problem, is like, obviously Slovenian, like I mentioned something similar before. I don't know if it was this meetup or one of the others, but the problem is also that people expect a bit too much, since Slovenian scene is still trying to build itself up. We cannot make an event that's as big as, I don't know, League of Legends Worlds or ESL for Counter-Strike or something like that, but people still expect it. So we're trying to, build it up from the foundations up, but people already expect a skyscraper,
Yeah. That's why I think a lot of Slovenian players, they try to reach for something they can't really achieve, and that's like a really big event, at least, or even minor events. Sometimes they just don't. They don't hold up to like really good like teams from Russia or wherever that have a whole lot of time to practice together, that have a ton of different like opponents they can scrim against, whatever practice. Definitely Slovenian teams can, play online, but who wants to play against a bunch of Russians? Am I right?
Yeah. The results are here, so it says 40 hours or more. You were like correct, but I think this number is way too low.
Yeah. 40
Maybe
hours.
That, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, 40 hours is like, oh, you're pretty much putting an entire work week into Counter-Strike, but like,
But it's still the minimum, basically, if you want to be like a pro or at least competitive player.
No, I don't even think that this is half the minimum.
Yeah.
If you want to be an actual pro, like if you
Yeah.
want to be an actual pro, you need to put at least 8 hours a day, every single day, and even more sometimes. Like I know a couple guys in the Slovenian scene who even put like over 120 hours a day, not the day, but like in a week.
A week.
Like how?
Yeah, but that's again, it's again a problem then, because we're not in Slovenia. I don't think anyone in Slovenia is getting paid for this. Only the players that have gone abroad to play abroad. And then, like you said it yourself, this is 40 hours is a work week, right? So if you already have a job, when are you gonna do this? Do you have to, and like, are you prepared to, for example, quit your job to completely pursue this?
I think that's really more of an argument, as in, when do you perceive yourself as a good enough player that you are, at least in your mind, going to definitely reach a really high level, at least, to get paid for actually playing the game. If not, you can just become a streamer. But in the end, you
that's why I'm a streamer.
Why I'm a streamer. But like when are you gonna, like, is it a smart thing to quit your job? Hell no, it's a big risk. You can never become a pro player just by not taking risks.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but like you're basically throwing your life away. But I'm taking this stance. It's much easier for younger talent to do it. Why? Well, they can still be in school. They can not quit a full-time job. They still have, okay, if you're lucky enough, you have funding from your parents just to get for everything. Like if you're really unlucky, then you just need to work your entire life.
Wanted to quickly touch the last point and hear your thoughts, because we heard a lot from Vuk, and I agree with most of what he said, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on what do you think, what is the best way to attract sponsors and make the scene more marketable? How to get money into it also.
Well, I definitely want to make a stance about making the scene more official. Like people make their own events, organizers make their own events, make stuff, whatever they want. The past two organizations that have been opened up, the SEZ, Slovenská služba, I think it's called, by I think Spitzi, is the guys behind it, and Isha, the guys who have like stage one kind of backing them up, sort of. These organizations are working very well to make the scene legitimate. And what attracts sponsors better than knowing that what they're sponsoring is a legitimate thing, and not just a small like group of like 5 guys, we're gonna make a rock band or something like that, and we're gonna become rock stars across the entire globe. No, you need a really solid foundation of something legitimate to back. I is pretty much my thoughts on the whole subject. I just think that we just in the Slovenian scene, there's a lot of bickering back and forth. to how to do stuff correctly. I think we just need to do stuff pretty much in the end. We're
We need to stop
kinda-
fighting and start working together instead of trying to
yeah,
put the scene in half even more or fragment it even more.
yeah, that this could be a really controversial subject to a lot of players, a lot of like organizations, a lot of teams, whatever. But even to like economists, if you're watching this, sorry, but a monopoly in this point is just the best option.
Mm.
At least the monopoly of the players and the scene and the events. Yeah, definitely like competitiveness between organizations is definitely best for the end user, but you know, you just really
Yeah, it's also one thing that I also keep mentioning, I feel like, on these meetups is the fact that we still have to destigmatize video games. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. So like when young players want to maybe start playing a bit more, to maybe get to a point where they can think about this as a profession, and
Yeah.
you know, usually they're younger, so like for example their mom is going to be like, no, you know, it's a way, video games are a waste of time. So this kind of stuff as well.
yeah, video games in many aspects of them, at least my thoughts on it are not a waste of time. Either you're gonna just enjoy it out of the sheer fun of it, you know, psychology, everything, blah blah blah, or you're just gonna become a pro and get millions of dollars just by playing the game. That's a possibility.
And
But there's no guarantee you're reaching that, and that's why people call it pretty much a big of a gamble. It's like becoming a pro poker player.
yeah, but that's the same for like normal sports, if you may. Like if you
Yeah.
play basketball, most people that play basketball aren't going to go pro in basketball, right? You can just
No,
play
no.
for fun. So it's the same way, and that's, like I mentioned, this stigmas and stuff also because this is also preventing the scene to be more marketable and to attract more sponsors, because I feel like a lot of sponsors or like big companies and stuff like that still also stigmatize video games.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in Counter Strike's case, there has been always a lot of issue with sponsors, just because of the presentation of the game. The whole words CT versus T does not stick well for sponsors. I know. I've watched a ton of documentaries on this thing, and it actually goes really deep into the whole marketing part about this entire game franchise, whatever you want to call it.
It's not just the words, it's also just the fact that, you know, you're shooting each other in Counter-Strike, and maybe
Yeah, the
something
presentation in general.
yeah, maybe something like FIFA, or you know, something that is more similar to normal sports. I don't like using that word, but I don't
Yeah.
know what to say.
Physical sports, let's call it.
Yeah, that is more similar to sports that people already know, might be maybe easier to break into the scene, and then we could maybe go with like shooters from
Yeah.
there on.
I think Speed Seed did really well with the whole basketball association of Slovenia. They're kind of making a lot of basketball players recognize like esports as an actual thing. That, oh, I play NBA 2K all the time. Why shouldn't I become like a good pro NBA 2K player? Yeah, why not? Like, go try your hand at it. I mean, you're trying your hand at basketball. Why not try at this? It's like
I
pretty
agree.
much a sideways effect, really. A lot of people like playing football. A lot of people play FIFA. Why not both? It's pretty much, and why not even try, you know, going pro in both? I want to say.
And that might be the good entrance for destigmatizing these video games. Maybe we try with sport games first, and then
Yeah.
slowly move up to like League of Legends, Counter-Strike, these kind of games.
Yeah, some of the games, some of these games might not be as marketable as, like, you know, football, American football, uh, whatever. But like, in the end, these are still games. People play them to improve. Like, you don't either improve or have a good time. You're doing the same thing with FIFA, and you're doing the same thing with actual football. So I don't know where the whole kind of line sits between us. I don't know what statement really separates esports from physical sports. So in the end, I think that the big part of this is just in general, the young generation. Yeah, obviously, oh, I can play video games, I could get millions of dollars. Yeah, that kind of part, that kind of look onto the scene is good, but in the end, who's gonna support them? I don't think it's gonna be their parents, just willing to risk their child's life on Fortnite. It happens all the time everywhere. People try, they fail, but they don't want to admit they fail. That's the issue. I think in this entire environment we are put in to Counter Strike, really.
Well, I never turned like full Nico Pro, but
No.
I kind of don't regret my time playing CS. Like I had great memories of it. I had the great time. I met a lot of friends, a
Yeah.
lot of interesting people. And it's the same with any endeavor, right? As long as you're gonna do it for fun, as long as you're gonna do it for a longer period of time, you're gonna have fun and you're gonna have the memories, you're gonna have experiences, and that's also totally fine, right? Like how many young boys and girls are there that trained something for I don't know 10 years, either with soccer, tennis, whatever, and they never turned pro as well, right?
Yeah.
I bet they're not like, oh, why did I play basketball for 10 years? Yeah, well, you have something still, right?
Yeah. Oh no, it should have played football. It should have become pro in football. Fuck.
Yeah. So like at this point, I don't know, maybe open it for discussions. If you guys have any further questions or anything you want to raise up, now's the time. Like, go ahead, unmute yourself, share your thoughts.
Yeah, hey, a fantastic discussion, really, from several angles. Many times you emphasized, okay, you need to play 10 hours a day, even more. Simply, many people just don't have this time, will never find this time, okay? Maybe you trained football for 10 years, but you didn't train it 10 hours per day. That's a fact, right? And no, so my question goes, what about those who play 2 to 3 hours a day? So that is the average player, maybe, speculating a little bit. Can those help raise the scene? We know we won't get 100 professionals out of Slovenia. We won't get 200 serious players like training 70 hours per day in Slovenia, but you can get 2,000 casual players. Could those help in some ways boost the scene? I'm just trying to brainstorm a little bit here. What do you think about this aspect?
I think definitely. If you have a lot of people enjoying the game, they're definitely gonna tell their friends, anybody who they know is like, "Hey, this game is really cool. You should try it. Maybe play with me, and I can teach you the ropes, and then you can go play by yourself." It's like even with Counter Strike, it happens. Like people see like, "Ooh, this guy is having a lot of fun. He's like in these tense clutch situations, whatever." Or just spraying down mid on dust 2 with a Negev. It's just like, in the end, it's fun. And that's what I think brings the most players. They just think it's a fun game. And, fun attracts people. People like entertainment, but do people really want to put 20 hours, 40 hours, 80 hours a week just to be better at that fun? That's the question.
But Tom, even if you have like, I don't know, 2,000 casual players that play 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, that amount of hours sums up, right? And like that's going to be a lot of hours and they're going to become good at the game, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll have people who want to be those guys and like want to be like them. And yeah, like, of course.
It's pretty much a fight to the top every single time you want to be a pro player. And
exactly,
you're trying to beat people who play the game to be better, just to have more fun at the game.
That's true. That's true. What I might, suggest that I'm thinking here, maybe not everyone wants to be a pro player. Out of those 2,000, there are 200 that might want to give it a try, but the majority not. But they still make a big chunk of the scene. So my suggestion, we'll see how we move on throughout the months and the year and so on. But maybe we oftentimes focus only on those who want to become pro. But when you organize events, when you, let's say, motivate people, when you encourage people to boost the scene, there is two different kind of people that we should be targeting. Those that actually want to become pro, you want to motivate, but there's also a chunk that doesn't want to become pro, but they can still contribute. So to those people, maybe we offer something else. We don't push them, go become pro. No, maybe we offer them, even if for an average player that have the enthusiasm, maybe, become a streamer, or maybe find those who are extroverted and want to become streamers and teach them this, and even further, they will popularize the scene. Živa.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about this too much because it's obviously my own project that I do on the side and it doesn't have directly to do with this, but we do have the Sneaky Foxes that we actually started for this specific reason that Tom just said. So to get together the average players, maybe make like a league is now, like a national league that we have. What if we make a national league for average players where we cap it at like, oh, the most you can be is gold, for example, gold rank or something like that, and make a league specifically for lower ranked players that maybe do not want to, like Tom said, become pros, but just so they can have some fun and enter the scene, the esports scene as well. But that they don't get completely destroyed when we went to nationals, we got completely destroyed, right? Because we're average players.
And like Mevlin's team destroyed us when we went to play.
I'm glad you remember that, and we had fun.
I do. It was tons of fun. Fartek was also in the team. I don't know if you remember.
I really can't remember anything from that. I was too wasted, but
you still kicked our ass.
But my point in general, Slovenia Hub is a good place for casual players to play, just because it's super open to like anybody. You can be like the lowest of the low, really, in skill level, and still play for fun. You can definitely play with other like even higher level players. But I think there's a little of a stigma, really, that you can't really escape at this point. That's the average player is not really acting the way you want them to be. It's not always on their best behavior, and then comes the toxicity, the like argument that we talked about before. It's like you need more people to moderate anybody. The more people you put into like a community, and that's kind of a thing that we are trying to reach on the Slovenian Hub. We're trying to put more and more moderators that know what they're doing, know how to handle a really bad situation between two people. There have been bad situations in the Slovenia Hub where two players completely just destroyed each other in chat or something. What do? Well, you permaban them. You have no mercy, and that's pretty much it. You need more people who show that they can control the situation. That's part of moderation of the average players. It happens. Sometimes it happens, but in general, putting more casual players, definitely improves the scene. Just by the more players you put in, the more they're going to be spread out. It's like a Gaussian curve. You all know it. And in the end, there's going to be, there's definitely going to be a gap between the top players and the media and the like intermediate kind of level players and everything. But the more players you put in, the gap's going to get smaller and smaller. In Slovenia, currently, like I'd say, if you kind of, I'd say there's about 1,000 at least active players in Slovenia who are not like the average Joe who's like, oh, I'm going to fire up Counter-Strike once per month to get roasted at by 5 Russians and run down mid with a P90. It's a really kind of a, it's a thing you can't escape. But at least what I'm trying to do in the Slovenia Hub is provide a sort of safe environment for players to, average players to go and play the game against other Slovenians just because they feel like it, maybe making some few new friends on the way. That's it. So what I'd like to say pretty much as my standing point for the entire conversation, for making the Slovenian scene more popular, expanding it, is by literally expanding it and into adding more players. And my sentence that I want to say at the end is go Q. Pretty much it. So that's all from my side, I think, unless you have any more
Thanks. Yeah,
topics you want me to talk about. You want me to talk about or questions?
it was great. Yeah, unless anyone else has anything, we're gonna shortly wrap up, I guess. Thank you everyone for joining. That was fun. We're gonna keep the conversation going. We're gonna talk this stuff in the future as well. Reveris is going to host, schedule, organize a few more meetups, and like there are already a few scheduled. The next one is Valorant on 19th of January. Then on 21st, esports and gaming meetup. 26th, women in gaming, LOL meetup on 28th. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and that's also like a good step forward of like building the scene, boosting it, and yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks for participating in the polls, in the discussions, and all that. Thank you, Madeline, for being a great star of the meetup.
Oh,
Thanks everyone.
yeah. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Oh, by the way, yeah,
Thank
there,
you.
Yeah.
there you have a Slack channel and also I think the survey for the meetup. That would be really great if you could fill that out. Maybe join the Slack community and keep the conversation going there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.